Hello, my fellow patriots. This is Alex, and if you notice over here to the right side of your screen, I hope it's the right side because everything's backwards on these things. Miss Belinda is back.
Hello, everybody.
So emotional. I could really feel that. Just just
Hello, everybody.
there. That's much better. Uh, we've got Maurice, Delk, DM, and Shonda in the chat so far. How you guys doing this evening? Or should I say not say guys? Ah, crap. I don't know which kind of uh, pronoun to use.
Oh, God, Alex, really?
Um,
I
I'm
was an
sorry.
ordinance man. I was a legal man, and it's just okay. I still knew I was a woman.
Yeah, well, it's pretty obvious in a lot of ways, but that's why I get so confused. Um, okay, she is on the right of the screen. Are you looking at the screen? Cool. I called it just right. All right, good. Well, Miss Belinda has been gone taking care of family affairs, and as you can see, she's back. We're glad to have her back, my sidekick.
Thank you.
Um, it's it's a special thing, but anyway, the we've made several attempts to do this episode of the Who Really Owns America. Hey, Pete the Patriot's here, an ancient drummer. Good to see you. Also, I got George Washington. Ladies and gentlemen, George Washington is in the building. I don't know how
Thank
they
you,
can
DM.
keep
Sorry.
that guy going. You're fine. Anyway, so this is the episode we've been trying to do now for 2 weeks. We're going to be talking about the U.S. seaports that are foreign owned and operated, and just the whole thing is just ridiculous. But did you want to do any open or anything before I get to the first article, Belinda?
No, but I do appreciate DM keeping the family in prayers and all that. That's very nice. Thank you.
And we're surrounded by a group of great patriots, good people. We
Yes,
love
we
them
are.
all.
Yes.
All right. So what I want to do is I want to start this with the an article that I found, and it's the title of the article is "Why Are Any U.S. Ports Owned or Operated by Foreign Corporations or Governments?" Yes, I agree. By him. Um, it says there are plenty of good non-jingoist reasons to oppose the sale of 6 U.S. ports to corporations controlled by the government of the United Arab Emirates. But the bigger question is why are the U.S. ports and other strategic infrastructures being privatized, particularly to companies owned by foreign governments? Before the UAE controversy erupted, most Americans probably did not know that many U.S. ports are already owned or run by private corporations, some of which are owned by foreign governments, according to the New York Times.
And you know what
Foreign-based
that should
companies
say?
own.
It should say
What's
hostile
that?
governments. It should say hostile governments. But go ahead.
I agree because uh, I don't think we're at it with the United Arab Emirates, but they have a non-extradition treaty with the U.S., so that means that in the back of their mind, they're technically not real favorable of us.
Hmm.
So, I mean, that kind of shows. Anyway, so it says foreign-based companies own and or manage over 30% of the U.S. port terminals. According to the Time magazine, over 80% of the terminals in the port of Los Angeles are run by foreign owned companies, including the government of Singapore. In fact, APL Limited, controlled by the Singapore government, operates ports in Los Angeles, Oakland, Seattle, and the Dutch Harbor, Alaska. Pathetic. Chinese government owned companies control terminals in the Port of Los Angeles and other West Coast ports, as well as both ends of the Panama Canal. That that is an issue. That would fall under the category of hostile governments potentially cutting us off.
Who built the Panama Canal?
We
Shh.
did, and we
Let
owned
me
it until Clinton gave it back to him.
let me go put my dog outside. I'll be right back.
Okay, I'll keep going. We'll see you when you get back. Um, Anyway, so it says you don't have to be an economic nationalist to think that certain strategic infrastructure should not be owned by foreign companies, particularly those owned by foreign governments. Ports certainly fit into the category. Other examples include airports, railroads, and nuclear power plants, which we would not have in foreign control. If we're going to sell off strategic facilities to foreign companies and governments, why not sell off the FAA, the Nuclear Regulatory Agency, or the New York City Police? I'm sure some Saudi or Chinese security personnel know how to crack heads better than the New York's finest. Yeah, so you can really see how ridiculous it is that we're giving away our primary infrastructure for uh, the function of our country, literally. Um, Senators Clinton and Menendez have announced that they are introducing legislation. Obviously, this is an older article, but it hits with today too. Introducing legislation to prohibit companies owned or controlled by foreign governments
Oh,
from purchasing port operations in the United States. She spoke out of one side of her mouth but operated out of the other. So don't believe anything that she ever said because the agreements were made under Obama to sell like Port Wanimi to a foreign company out of LA. Um, but they should go one step further. Profit making operations, foreign or domestic, should not be allowed to own key strategic infrastructure. Corporations' responsibility is to their shareholders, not to the nation. If there's a conflict between security and profits, profits will come first. Yes, greed. Strategic infrastructure should be owned and controlled by institutions that put the interest of the American people above profits. That'll never happen. This could take the form of government ownership or likely ownership by a nonprofit joint government private entities. That sounds like communism. So, no.
and look at
In
Hong
the end, the
Kong.
issue.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. Look at Hong Kong.
Hong
I
Kong
want you to
is
chime in anytime. So,
Hong Kong is trying their hardest to get out of communism and socialism. They want to be like America, and I don't know what's going on here that there's such a large push for this socialist communist way of life.
yeah. Well, we got Conservative Brew and Reaper Militia Outdoors that just joined us. So, welcome to you guys. Appreciate you being here. Yeah, it's a little bit spooky. The situation with Hong Kong was they were turned back over to China with many stipulations. It's a self governing body, and they're only connected to China by bridges and air and opportunity. Patty's here. Patty Hefner, good to see you. Um, so yeah, there's a lot to that, and China wants to absorb them and take away all the amendments that were made in their absorbing of Hong Kong and go against all the things that were done and with the agreement of getting Hong Kong back. But
Yeah, they
anyway,
were
that's
free.
another video.
They were free. I know they were just free for so long, and then when they had to, Britain had to turn over control in '99. Those people weren't used to a socialist communist way of life.
Right, and they were supposed to be allowed to continue to be self-governed under their own program. Um, Jasmine's entertaining. I welcome to her. She just joined us. Anyway, I got a last paragraph of the article here. Um, let's see. In the end, the issue comes down to the Bush administration ideology of privatizing everything from Social Security to port ownerships. The Democrats, if they're not too timid, should expand congressional hearings on the UAE deal to include the larger issues of port security and ownership and control of America's strategic infrastructure. They should make clear that while Bush may sacrifice constitutional liberties in the name of national security, which he did a bunch of, he will sacrifice national security to further the interest of global business elites. So anyway, that's where that article ends, and I'll let you have a minute to chew on that, Miss Belinda, and see what you think of it.
Well, I I hate to say anything foul about the Bush administration, but in hindsight, looking at some of it, uh, I guess before 9/11, we just never thought that these types of things could happen to us. And now that 9/11's happened, and we see that we've let all these hostile countries develop, maintain, and own our seaports. They're in the air traffic control business in our airports. Most airports are still funded and guided by the state or the city. But
Right.
I think 9/11 just turned our thinking around. I think it was all just that, go get it, the American dream, make all the money you can, and prosper. And
Right.
and there were no
Michelle just
advisors.
joined us in the chat.
I
Michelle from Pro Life American 45 Saving Lives. Wow, that's a long name. Anyway, so yes, she's joined us. Good to see you, Michelle. So anyway, yeah, so I I don't know what to think as far as the Bushes go. There's a dark history with the Bushes, and they're not that much separated from globalism and attempts to dismantle the republic that we have and eliminate our liberties and our pursuit of happiness, so to speak. So there's a lot there, and people need to look at the history of the Bushes because uh, it wasn't all candy and roses. I guarantee you, they rubbed too many elbows with the people
No,
that are hell bent on destroying us.
it wasn't. And I'm probably naive in thinking this, but I 9/11 was such an an attack. It was big. It it did all the things that they wanted to do. And I
Yeah, when the
just
truth comes out about that, then a
oh,
lot of
I'll be
people are
dead.
just going to hit the ground. I mean, that's the thing. You have to kind of prepare yourself because the world that you see around you has been constructed of nothing but lies, and it will come out. And when it comes out, it's going to shock a lot of people to the core, and you just have to be ready for that because it's just a lie. I've been awake probably since I was in my teens, so nothing that's happening nowadays is surprising me in any way. It pisses me off, but it doesn't surprise me because I've seen how the system is being done, and I've just been aware of it for most of my entire life.
Well, I mean, they're
But
even
anyway, so
as far as who owns America, we even have a whole set of truck drivers that belong to a certain group that transport our food and clothing, transport everything that can be shipped in a truck. And they're
yeah,
wanting jobs at the places where you pick up the food. I guess the wholesale place. I don't know what they're called, but and they're trying to target those specific areas. They don't want to haul coal. They don't want to haul fire hydrants. They want to
yeah, they
haul the consumables that
commodities,
we use, commodities that we use.
right?
And how is that happening?
Well,
If I can see it and I can read on the little truck driver feed that it's happening, then powers that be should see the trend.
yeah, well, it's amazing. I don't think everybody's hostile to us. I think some people want the dream, but one issue that you may notice with hotels and convenience stores and things like that, the people from India are not particularly wealthy. It's there's a group of them that are, but the majority of the nation is pretty well struggling. But if you notice the people that tend to help you in the convenience stores and at the counters of these uh, hotels, they're not their last name always tends to be Patel, and Patel is actually the translation for Patel is servant. So all of the Patels are servants of a massive India conglomerate, and they pick people basically a, lottery, so to speak. They send them over here. They get them set up. They they basically work for the this India conglomerate, and they get all their paperwork handled. They get all the stuff they need to do, and their last names are always Patel because it is foreign owned, and they are put into place as a figurehead to run it for the foreign entity.
Yep. And when they say that uh, foreigners have taken over the jobs that Americans want, I don't know who wouldn't want to run a hotel. I don't.
Yeah.
I just don't know how all these
Amy the
people
Mod, California
are.
Critic, and Ashley, all welcome, welcome, welcome. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay.
Just got to
How?
show the love, got to spread
Well,
it
yeah.
out, got to get some.
I don't know how uh, that we've been taken over. I just think we should lock all of our borders. We should, like I was saying earlier to you, Alex, about Mattel and the Barbie dolls.
Yeah.
Why? How much can they be saving a Barbie doll? I just don't
Uh,
know why it has to be made here. That's an industry we could have. I was just in Savannah, Tennessee, and I don't know if any of y'all are old enough, but there used to be a clothing line called Garanimals, and they were
yep.
made.
That was
You remember Garanimals?
back in
And they
the
were made.
yeah. I think they were in the 80s.
Yeah, they were made exclusively in Savannah, Tennessee. Savannah, Tennessee has a population of about 4,000 people, and then they moved it to Mexico. They were hardly
Yeah.
paying a living wage as it was, and then they moved it to Mexico. And people
Yeah.
like,
That's it's a habit. Every time something gets going good, they move it somewhere else, and it kills off the region that they moved it from.
so who's preaching that send everything to China? Who does that? Who
The
who's
globalists.
go?
We are the last beacon on the hill, the United States of America. We are the only stepping stone that hasn't been kicked over yet to get their way to globalism. And the goal, the 16-year plan, has been to destroy America. And if you haven't looked up the 16-year plan, look it up because it explains how they planned on destroying this country to bring us under the boot of the neck and put us under the New World Order and globalism. But as long as we stay armed and we are prepared to defend this republic from tyranny, we are a major hurdle that the globalists can't get over. So, one way they can do it is by sending everything overseas and starving us to death. If people can't feed their families because they can't find a job, then it's real easy to say, well, okay, we're going to do a gun buyback. We'll
Yeah,
give you guys $1,500 for your gun, and
yeah,
you will go in there and you will hand it to them and you'll thank you, sir. I'm starving. I got to feed my family. If you can't take them directly, you take them indirectly by starving the population and then telling them that we'll help you. So that's the plan with sending everything overseas.
yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense. And I don't. There's just when you went over the companies that have moved overseas, it were you just shocked to think things that would never go, things that would always be an American owned company are now, like the IBM stuff. I,
Right. And
that,
Motorola.
and Hathaway, what is that one blacklisted tech company? Uh, they
Huawei.
Yeah. They can do anything they want. It could all be interconnected. And one day, all of our, this AI, I know I sound like a crazy woman, but they could
No, you
do
don't.
anything they want to do in our country because they're smart enough, because they're
Right.
absolutely smart enough to do it. Instead of realizing what each country has as far as smarts go or ability, talents, instead of the world using those together, we
Yeah,
they use it
Caterpillar.
for bad. It's all used for bad.
Yeah, when Caterpillar went overseas, that gave me an industrial gulp.
Yeah.
That's just like Harley now talking about building. I think they're talking about building in Europe or something, but that's just I'm not ready for that.
Oh, I saw
I
that
can't
that
ride my
Harley
bike
wants to move
anymore.
there. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean, I
my
got
neighbor
my bike
lost
in the
his
garage.
job.
It's been in there for almost 3 years now because my
Really?
damn legs are too weak to hold it up with Lisa on the back with me. It's 1,170 pounds, so it's just as time goes on, I lose the strength of my legs, so I can't hold it up. And the equipment that I need to make it so that I can hold it up, it's got a set of wheelies that drop down when you hit the brakes. That way, when you're at a stoplight or something, it's got these wheels on the ground that are holding you up.
Mhm.
Anyway, those are about $3,000 installed.
Oh,
So when I when I can get that in there, then I'm maybe back on our bike again. We'll see.
yeah,
But
just
anyway, that's a
pocket
different
change.
subject. Yeah. So did you want to catch the next issue, the China Seaport shopping spree?
Yeah, hold
Because
on. Let me
that's
get it.
that's an interesting read. Make sure you got your reading glasses on.
They are. Don't you see them shining bright? um, on Forbes, there's an article. It's 2 years old, but it's China's seaport shopping spree. What China is
Dirtbags on
winning.
here. Sorry.
Okay. Hello, dirtbag.
Sorry. He is he's a patriot warrior. He helps us get promoted on other channels, so it's great to see him.
Is this the guy that punches you?
No. That's Fred Knott.
Okay.
I don't see him yet, so I'm
Okay.
bracing for that. Florida Jim just got here. Hey, buddy, good to see you. Anyway, go ahead, Belinda. I so rudely interrupted you.
Whatever. Um, in a bid to bolster its position, and this is China, as a maritime powerhouse, secure key supply chains. I don't want them owning any supply
Yeah,
chains.
like both sides of the Panama Canal. Yeah,
Mhm.
that supply
Yeah,
chain.
yeah. Enhance its international trade capacity and build up leverage. Build up leverage. China has been buying up the development and operational rights to seaports that stretch uh, the realm of the globe: Asia, Middle East, Africa, Europe, South America.
Yeah,
While a big
it's what they call their Silk Road slash Silk Marine or Silk Waterway.
21st century maritime Silk Road, or
That's it.
MSR. Yeah.
Never thought I'd hear of that before.
Yeah, it's the watery part of the Border Belt and Road Initiative. These acquisitions have taken on a booming significance in the intercontinental world of trade. And
Right.
the article just goes on to talk about they bought 90% of a port in Brazil. They in Dubai they
Tony
bought
Patriot. Hey, buddy.
they bought
Sorry,
three
I
hundred
just saw
million
Tony again.
dollars to build a free trade zone. So they're setting themselves up strategically. I guess, like if you would look at a map of World War II and you would see those strategic waterways and the way they tried to take over different countries or islands to be there. So they had a staging point. It seems that's what
Right.
China's doing, but right in your face. I mean, if anybody
Yeah.
built a map,
Uh,
you would see it.
James Breeden is in here. Thanks for coming. Looks like a new face, so that's nice. Renee Thomas just jumped in, so good to see you too. Zebso's here too, so waving my hand. All right. So anyway, yeah, the Silk Road. I think I mentioned. It seems like I mentioned the last time we were talking, or maybe on one of my other videos about the Chinese using 1,000-year plan when we work on 10-year projection or 8-year elections or 4-year elections. So this Silk Road was started over 1,000 years ago with the same scenario that their plan is to dominate the planet with with mobility of trade. So once they have complete control of all the trade routes, guess who gets to decide what comes and goes?
Exactly. China.
Yeah, that's a lot of power. If you can
Yeah.
decide, every country in the world, if you can decide what they can move out of their borders or into their borders, then that's an enormous amount of power.
Yeah, and I think people have lost, with what is the saying? With much power comes much responsibility. I
Yeah,
don't
or
find that
greed.
people are being responsible. They're just, I mean, how much can a family for, say, 10 generations, which I have no idea how long that would be, but how much money would a family need to make? How much there has to, and I'm not one of those people
Yeah,
that say you got to tax the rich or make sure they give up all their money. I don't mean that. But with much,
California Critic just said something interesting. She says
okay.
it's the Great Wall of Commerce. And yes, it really is. It's the Great Wall was considered one of the premier architectural and construction projects of the entire human existence, and they're trying to do the same thing with the mobility of product. So that's an interesting statement.
Yeah, I've never heard that term before. The
The Great
Great
Wall of
Wall.
Commerce.
Yeah.
Well, I
That's
haven't
just
heard it
some,
before, but I can see the comparison. It
yeah.
makes sense.
Well, if you and I can sit here and all the friends that are in the chat can sit here and see that there's something wrong, uh, how do we how do we correct that? How what can we do as individuals or a group of 30 people? What could we do
Well, it's an
to
incredible
help ourselves,
question.
to help our
Watchful
country? I mean,
Warrior just came in. Sorry, I just saying hi to Watchful Warrior, but yeah, it is a question because we as little people, it's kind of like ants. If you have one ant on your arm, you give them a flick and they're gone. But if you have an ant hill crawling up your entire leg, then it becomes something to pay attention to. And the only way we're going to make any significant change is if we can create a movement with enough people that when they see us coming, they know that they need to be taking a minute and listening. So that's the answer. Is just like what we're doing here. We're building a big patriot movement by all the people that are subbing to our channels. Some of the smaller channels are trying to build up. Some of the bigger channels are helping the small ones.
mhm.
And what we're doing is we're building our ant farm so that when we have to make a move on something or try to sway a decision, we have enough behind us to make it worthwhile.
Yeah, because I hope we do all get to a point where that is helping us, because I don't want, if my daughter has children, I don't want my grandchildren. And that's one of the reasons why she's putting off having children, is she doesn't feel that she's safe, or they would be safe, or that the world even would be a safe place to bring in a child.
Um,
And now
that's
that
very
nuclear
unfortunate.
disaster in Russia, she's, you
Yeah,
know,
it's very unfortunate. California Critic brought up another one I want to bring forward. Says push lawmakers to make legislation and make it a rule you must be a citizen to own property. Other countries already do it. Why don't we? I agree, except for when I lived in Turkey, I did have the option to buy the home I was in. I chose to rent it, but the the option as an individual, I would say if you want to buy a vacation home or a second residence in another country, I think that should be allowed because you don't want to all of a sudden somebody just say, okay, no, that's not yours. We'll take it. So you want to have some security if you own a home in another country, but conglomerates, corporations, and LLCs that disguise themselves as individuals need to be looked into, and there needs to be some control on who owns the stuff. That's just my opinion on it.
Well, I think another thing that would be good for us is these shadow corporations. When I tried to trace back my port here, it's so many shadow corporations it's just a paper corporation, so then you have to dig through their legal paperwork to find the next corporation, to find the next one, to find out who really owns something. I think it should be clear. I don't think they should be allowed to hide it that way. If you
Right.
got to hide something, like you tell your kids, if you got to hide something, you're doing something wrong, you know.
Yeah. I mean, that's like, I don't know if that's what they use for the hedge funds. Crazy Chick Sheena is here. Good to see you. Um, I don't know. I'm not sure I understand hedge funding and stuff like that, but I know what it is basically corporations create great big pools of corporations, and they help each other out by putting corporate ownership into different regions, but it all goes into the same piss pot. And that you're right. It needs to be looked into because it can take you a week to find the actual name of the person that owns an entity because you have to go through a stack of parent companies and um, LLCs and corporations and hedge funds operators. It's a pile, and yeah, that needs to be simplified. It needs to be direct, and we need to know who the hell owns what.
Yeah, I want to know who owns the air traffic controls. I know they're still part of the government, but from everything that I could find out, uh, there is private ownership of air traffic control. Who is that? And I mean, I just
Right,
didn't have enough time with getting back when we did, but I didn't have enough time to research that. But it should be easier. I shouldn't have to.
right.
Yeah, I guess with the
Yeah, it just
internet,
you should be able to
everybody's
look
so
it up,
spoiled. I
and
should be
that's
able to
it.
type it in. Yeah, and poof, I get the answer. But when it's this
Well, part of that is
corporation,
Google's controlling your searches, and I know you use DuckDuckGo, but even recently, I've just found out that they're swaying their search results a little bit, which kind of frustrated the hell out of me because I thought they were sort of a hands-off search engine, but apparently they're not. Um, anyway, so yeah, there's a lot of mystery, and it shouldn't be this way. But I wanted to real quick jump onto this statement that I got from Governor DeSantis, just related to the seaports, and just bring up the writing style and what I feel about it. And it says Governor DeSantis's bold vision for Florida's economy relies on the strength of our partnerships with agencies and organizations. Florida's seaports represent the best of our state, and we will continue to support their work, which enhances Florida's global presence as a leader in trade and commerce and provides nearly 900,000 skilled jobs. Now, the reason I read this is because if you listen to how it reads, it sounds like foreign policy. Uh, we are working together with agencies and organizations. Why
yeah,
can't it
organizations.
be?
What organization?
Yeah, why can't he just say we're working with the port authority, and we are hand in hand with the port authority working on Florida's shipping and receiving. It's not a port authority anymore. It's a organization or an agency. But the reason I read that is just because the way it sounds to me, it sounds like he's trying to do foreign policy with our own seaports. But maybe you didn't hear others didn't hear it that way, but it's just the way I hear it. So
Well, they're so crafty with the way they speak. You to get a direct answer out of these politicians is it's just insanity. You'll hear them like with the big debates. So is your name Joe Biden? Well, when I went to school when I was 12, I punched somebody in the head. They never give
right,
a direct answer. It's always ambiguous, always.
right. Well, here's a great one of the best scenes out of a movie that reminds me of what you're just talking about with Dolly Parton and uh, oh, what's his name? Burt Reynolds. That's it. For Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. Back in the 80s, that movie came out, and there's a scene where the reporters are out there with their governor, and they ask him a question, and he does this incredible roundabout to the point where he comes straight back to the question they asked him. And one of the reporters looks over at the other one and says, "What the hell did he just say?" And she
Yeah,
looks back and she goes, "Oh, hell, I don't know. Just write something down."
right.
But that's literally how it is. They can go all the way around a subject without ever touching on what you ask them.
Oh, absolutely. And who I'm trying to look in the chat.
China owns
Could
Dollywood, Zepso says. That really? I thought that was
really?
Dolly's
I thought that was her
private
baby.
ownership. Yeah. Look, James Breeden says, look into the Rockefeller Foundation.
Oh
There
God.
is a group of criminals. They have damaged America to no end.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the top of their pyramid is the global bankers. When you're looking into that, you got to look into the black nobility, which is the pinnacle. They are the tip of the pyramid, and they're a little hard to find, but they are it. That's where this all starts.
And conservative Brew said, so when foreign companies own our ports, we don't know what they're smuggling in for other countries that may want to harm us. And that's absolutely true. That's, I mean, they could have their people on one end and their people on this country's end, and never check a container, never check a
Right.
ship. You know,
They don't have authority to check the equipment because it's not their company. It's a foreign company.
yeah.
Tony Patriot says he sent a small tip. Well, God bless you, brother. I appreciate that. Uh, Anybody that is willing to donate to this little attempt at my uh, getting information out to the people is so greatly appreciated. I'm not accustomed to asking for anything. I've always done everything myself, even when it's been an intense struggle, but I do greatly appreciate it. Um, anyway, so yeah, I wanted to say that, but you were saying now?
uh, about
Obama and
inspecting.
Hillary should be in jail. Yes, they should be. Yeah, inspecting the containers.
Yeah.
In Port Canaveral, there was an issue with that. Um, the inspectors weren't allowed to inspect equipment, and it was coming into Port Canaveral, which is next to it's. I mean, within eye shot of one of our most classified national security bases on the planet. I mean, Area 51, everybody says, oh, well, that's highly classified. Well, Port Canaveral and Cape Canaveral deal with some of the most classified and restricted projects that are going on the planet. And the seaport, they literally could bring rockets in. They could turn a shipping container into a launch vehicle where all it has to do is open up and out comes a rocket, and there they are. They're right next door to our Cape Canaveral. That's nerve wracking. James Breeden says he has to go. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate you hanging out with us for a little bit. Um, anyway, so
I do believe that if you can think it, it can happen. You know,
yeah,
that's why America is so great. If I think of something, I can make it happen. You know, you think of something, Alex, you can make it happen. So if I can think of
right.
some bizarre, crazy, bad thing, trust me, I'm sure someone thought of it years ago.
Yeah, well, I've had one patent literally stolen from me, and I've got a basically a pile of things that I've designed over the years that I can't afford to patent. So I just keep them quiet. But after having a patent stolen from me back in 1992, I actually designed windshield wipers that went on the mirrors for tractor trailers because I was driving trucks, and every time we got in a thick snowstorm, I was getting frustrated because I had to park and wipe my mirror off, and then get back in the seat and try to back up before the snow packed the mirror again, which was usually a few seconds. And I came up. My wife came up with the idea. Actually, when I came home one day, I came home just absolutely bitching about the fact I couldn't alley dock because I couldn't see where I was going. And she says, "Well, just put some windshield wipers on there and be done with it." So the light went off, and I did it. And I drew them up, made a working prototype, and I called one of these uh, companies that helps you with your patent. And being young and stupid, they said, "Well, look, we need to know a little bit about what you're doing so that we know if we can go further with it." So I just said, "Oh yeah, this is great. You're gonna put a windshield wiper on the tractor trailer mirrors, and you'll be able to hit a button where you're sitting, and you'll be able to back up." And they never called me back. And then 6 months later, in the J.C. Whitney magazines, came out this brand new concept of mirror wipers. So they were exactly the way I described them to this corporation, this Invent Help place or whatever. So that one was stolen from me. Now they're still standard issue equipment on most Freightliners that come out. So that one was mine. But anyway, that was another video entirely. We'll just go ahead and get back to where we were.
Watchful Warrior used to work at Cape Canaveral. And I was
Cool.
wondering, Watchful Warrior, if you've ever seen we have Russian submarines in the Gulf of Mexico. I'm directly involved with shrimping in the Gulf, and they, see them there all the time. And I was wondering if that's the type of security you did, and if you'd ever seen any or heard of them coming around launch time. But that's for Watchful Warrior.
That's on the Atlantic side, though.
Yeah, well, I know, that's why I don't know. I mean, I'd heard stories because I was in P3s for a while before I went to 18s, and I mean, that's what we did. We hunted the submarines. Yeah, that's what we did. So,
where are we at? We got 20 minutes left, and we've got at least, I know, 3 more articles to try to get to. We're making up for 2 weeks of attempts at getting this show going.
Did you go over all these companies that are no longer here?
Oh, I went over some of them. I went over a significant spew about one of my favorite companies was Lucky Strike, and I didn't realize that it was 1979 when they turned on the Americans and went overseas. But that one stung a bit. But then we lost Budweiser too, so I did go over those, I think, on the first episode, and I didn't get over all of them, but iconic American companies no longer owned by Americans, so some of that was gone over.
One of the ones that gets me is the Rawlings baseball. They're not made here.
Oh yeah.
There's a song. Right. Things go together in the good old USA. Baseball, hot dogs, and
right.
It's just funny that
Pocahontas
they're a Chevrolet.
Us. I appreciate you. Yeah, well, Chevrolet is a lot of Mexico too. Believe it or not, you can still get an old square body Chevrolet pickup truck, brand new, in pieces, because Mexico apparently bought all of the body dies to make the body parts. So if you want an old 85 model square body Chevrolet, you can get the body parts one at a time, shipped up from Mexico, and have one brand new. They did the same thing with the Volkswagen Beetle, actually, years ago. They many years ago, they bought the dies and the stamps to make the body parts for the Volkswagen Beetles. So you could get a Volkswagen Thing or a Beetle or a Vanagon brand new in Mexico, and they were 60s models or 70s models VWs, but they were brand new because they had all the equipment to do them. Anyway, again, another video. These are those useless pieces of knowledge that we have to throw in to keep the entertainment factor in the show. But anyway, I want to get on this one here. It says China invests in 42 overseas ports under the Belt and Roads Project. Isn't that what you were reading? No, that's not what you were reading.
Well, I don't think I had that information in it, but it was something under the BNR.
Right. But it says here, it says Chinese companies have participated in the construction and operation of a total of 42 ports in 34 countries under its Belt and Roads Initiative and launched 5 years ago, according to China's Ministry of Transport. These ports include Piraeus Port in Greece, Hambantota Port in Sri Lanka, and Gwadar Port in Pakistan. Uh, Wu Chungying, the ministry spokesperson, told the press briefing in Beijing on Thursday. Wu said China has also signed 38 bilateral and regional maritime agreements covering 47 countries, along with the Belt and Road trade routes. The reason I'm bringing up this article, and it's not U.S. companies, but it's the goal. U.S. is only a tiny part of this goal, and this explains what their whole strategic plan is. It says a signature foreign policy plan of Chinese President Xi Jinping, the Belt and Roads Initiative, was proposed in 2013 to boost China's trade with some 70 countries in Asia, Europe, Africa, through massive investments in railroads, ports, and power plants. It
And
consists
power
of
plants.
land-based. Yeah, I know that's a little nerve-wracking, but
Yeah.
we've already given away uranium. Why wouldn't we give away our entire nuclear power plants?
Yeah.
But it says it consists of a land-based Silk Road economic belt running from China's western parts towards Europe and the Middle East, and the 21st Maritime Silk Road that links China's coastal parts to the South Pacific and Australia, and to Europe and Africa through the South China Sea and the Indian Ocean and the Antarctic, or the Arctic, not the Antarctic, the Arctic. Beijing's maritime ambitions reflect the fact that China is the world's largest exporter and the second largest importer, and wants to secure access to infrastructure and resources that it considers critical to its economic development. So that is the plan. And their plan is world domination of the trade routes. And that makes them pretty much a superpower because they control what comes and goes. So
Yeah,
that's
the
why I brought up
leadership.
that article.
Well, the leadership of the Belt and Railroad is state sponsored. It's the Council of the People's Republic of China. It is only run by the political heavyweights of that government. And, here, this particular article makes it sound like, we'll starve if we can't get, something from another country. But I
Right,
mean, this is a big plan. This is a big, big plan. And they have the money to put behind it. And
right,
that in itself, I mean, we can't get good roads, you know, but they're
right.
able to do this multi-billion-dollar initiative, and I just wish the potholes would be filled out here by my house.
Well, we've been rebuilding China since Bill Clinton was in office. So they are doing quite nicely, thank you very much. But our infrastructure is pretty much garbage.
Yeah. Yeah, and back to when you were talking about buying a house in Turkey. When I lived in Singapore, we couldn't buy a house. We had to rent. You weren't
Yeah, in
allowed to
most countries
buy.
that is the
Yeah,
case.
yeah,
And I think by now Turkey has probably corrected that issue too. We literally had to leave Turkey because of politics when they got their Erdogan became their president. It was looking pretty dangerous and bad for Americans, and we were the only Americans that were on the in the region that we were in. We were the only American family, and we were well protected because we befriended the second-hand man of the Turkish mafia. So people didn't mess with us. But it was getting to the point where even he was going to have a hard time keeping us protected with his with his network. So we had to pretty much bail out and head home, which really sucked. We enjoyed the hell out of it over there. We absolutely love Turkey. It's a beautiful place, but politics gets in the way of life in every country.
Yeah. Well, I just wish we were reading articles and talking about things that said, and look what America did, and look what our country did. And I know we've done a lot of positive things, but this grand scale, I don't see us doing that. Or they throw up these little fake problems, and we're missing it. I don't know
Yes,
why they wouldn't want us to know, but
China, time for China to start paying taxes. Crazy Chickino says, yeah, well, that's kind of what the tariffs are, but the way they're avoiding it is by devaluing their currency, which is killing their people at home because they're working the same amount of hours for less pay, but it's making it so they don't have to pay any money to import into the U.S. It's a scheme. Uh, Alex has the best mods. Well, I would say I do too. Yeah, I've got a great group of people that help keep the chat straight and keep everybody happy and healthy.
did we
But
see any response from Wounded Warrior or not Wounded Warrior? The man I posed that worked at the
Cape
at
Canaveral.
Cape Canaveral. I don't.
Looking up here. When, I'll get it. When we're yeah, it's live TV.
Yeah,
I don't
sorry about
see a
that.
response yet.
Okay.
Uh, Thank you, Shonda. Yeah, I am on Parlor now. It's a decent site. It's an up and coming, kind of like a Twitter. So I post my videos over there, and once in a while I drop a subject for people to ponder. So yeah, check me out on Parlor. Um, let's see. Okay, amazing. I'm looking to see if I'm missing questions in the chat, but
Watch
when we're reading the
Warrior.
articles, I'm stuck over here looking at the article and don't always monitor the chat. But anyway, while you're monitoring the chat, I'm going to hit you up with this other headline with China, and it's the Association of Mature American Citizens is where I got this article from, and it says with acquisition of California port, China broadens influence in the U.S. commerce. This was not recent, but it's important to what's going on now. Um, as a matter of fact, let me see if I can see a date on this article. This was, well, look at that, June 2018. So this was recent. So they bought another one. Um, in numerous recent weeks, easy for me to say, numerous national security concerns have been raised regarding Chinese corporations and their increasing ownership of American businesses and trading posts. This alarm comes in the wake of China's largest shipping company, Costco Shipping Holdings, Costco Shipping Holdings Company, taking control of a major U.S. trade terminal in Long Beach, California. The Long Beach acquisition is part of a Costco $6 billion buyout of rival Asian shipping giant, the Hong Kong-based uh, Orient Overseas International Limited. So no wonder Hong Kong is kind of getting frustrated at China. Look what they're doing. They're trying to squelch them economically. Like I say, even with starving the Americans by shipping everything overseas, if you take a country to its knees, you can get them to do a lot of good things for you.
Yeah, good things.
Or
Yeah.
war. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, this leads to me not remembering that somebody mentioned that Costco's was owned by China, and I did not know that. Costco used to be one of the big box type membership stores that I wanted to deal with, but
I wonder if it's the same. I don't
frankly, I'm
think it's
tired
the
of
same.
dealing with China every time I go to a store.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, or the people that don't know
I've
what
changed my mind
PRC
on it.
means. That I'm always telling people what that means. They think, "Oh, I'm not buying China, I'm
Yeah,
buying PRC." Well,
yeah. What city is that again?
yeah, that's Puerto Rico. Yeah.
Yeah, People's Republic of China.
Yeah.
But um, anyhow, so that's California's port, and I wanted to give. We're at got 6 minutes left. I want to just throw this one in there. This was another one, so it's two examples right away of China moving in. Uh, Tell them that you have a life or death situation to call them back.
Yeah.
Okay. China based terminal operator buys into Port Miami and Houston. So there's two more, one Gulf Coast and one Atlantic Coast seaports that are taken by China. Um,
And the Sauds own Port Arthur in Texas. They own all of Port Arthur, solely own Port Arthur, the refinery, the wells, everything. They have
right.
that
Yeah,
stupid.
it really is getting ridiculous. Um, let's see. When Dubai Ports World purchased the P&O port terminal in 2006, the uninformed media misinformed the Congress that the Arabs were buying up the ports. But anyway, I got to go to the little girl's room. So, Belinda, you can tell them for a second.
Okay.
Hold on.
Ashley, you said that's you calling me by accident. Is that what I read? Yeah, I just left where you live, and that's why I didn't know if there was a problem. That's why I got kind of concerned. Um, but I hope I don't sound like a crazy person, but I just get concerned when I like the American farmer. Why are we paying them not to farm? They want to farm. Why are we importing any produce or any food from another country? I mean, what could we possibly need that we would have to do that? And if we kind of, you know how you take care of your own, you take care of your family, you pay your bills, you build that comfort around your family. Well, we need to start building that comfort around us. I just don't, I don't at all, I don't at all understand why. I guess it's greed. I just guess it's so much
And we're
greed,
back.
and people have lost sight of what's important. And I think that's what all of us are pushing for as conservatives, is to take care of our own first. I don't mind helping anybody. I don't mind helping any country, but we have to be taken care of first. We have to have all the
Right.
things we need first. And that's
Yeah, I
what's so
apologize about
frustrating.
me having to jump up. That's frustrating. I've got all this stupid ass nerve damage on my back. So even though we only had like 3 minutes left, I deal with this crap of not being able to know that I have to go until I'm damn near filling my socks. So it's
Conservative
frustrating as
group.
hell.
I have a friend that works at a hemp farm in Vermont. So if we, let's get rid of the plastics, let's get rid of all this stuff. Hemp is easy to grow, and we
Yeah, and
have
you can get
everything
two
we
crops
need
a
here.
year.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, if you want
I
to
mean
eat, so
they can make plastic out of hemp that turtles can eat.
yeah, why are
The
we
sea
not doing
turtles,
that?
because there's money in it. It's the oil industry. Some people just may not realize that oil is the backing behind plastic. You can't make plastic without oil. So we need to get away from fossil fuels and oil specifically. I mean, coal we can use coal right now because it's pretty clean, but they've gotten it to the point where they can function with clean air coming out of the flues at an oil plant or a coal plant. But oil, on the other hand, is not. It's still a very nasty substance with no ability to really clean it up when they have oil spills. It's still there. They say,
Yeah.
oh, well, we cleaned up the oil spill. No, you haven't. You just
Yeah.
weighted it and sent it to the bottom. So if the current comes up, it comes right back up again. So it's a nasty substance that we can get away from, but people just have to do it, and it won't happen as long as there's so much money in oil.
Well, yeah, and I didn't realize, because I don't know chemical, formulas or anything like that, that oil was used in plastic. My gosh, if we just I mean, all the plastic wrapping, all the plastic that I have around here, that would put a
Yeah.
huge dent in
Well,
the need for it. So nobody, I don't
well,
think
just think.
anybody's. let's quit making the straw, not the plastic cup, but let's quit making the
Right.
damn straw.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing with hemp plastics, the you can eat your snack cake, plastic and all, or you could eat them separate. I mean,
Save it for
literally,
later.
you could eat it. Yeah, I'll gonna save my hemp wrappers for later, and I'm going to have a meal out of them. But literally, that's what you could do. So there's so much opportunity, but marijuana isn't controlled by big pharmaceuticals, so they're not going to broaden the horizons with it until they can get control of it. They want to be the money chain for marijuana.
Yeah, figure out the right
But
tax
anyway,
for it.
yeah, so they can make it $700 an ounce or something like that, like an EpiPen, you know, for
You got Trump
epinephrine for
straws.
people with
History
reaction.
B. Are they paper straws? It's History B says I can't wait
It's
for my Trump straws to arrive. Are they are
they're
they
they're plastic.
are they
They're plastic. Yeah, but it's uh, Lisa goes to California. She's going in 2 months again. She goes to see her grandmother, and I told her, I said, you better make sure you don't take a straw. They'll call it a tactical weapon over there, and you'll be locked up, and I have to come all the way to California to get you. So we have to listen to all their stupidity over there and find out what she can take in her bag and what she can't take in her bag. Because right now, if you take a plastic straw, it could be a concealed weapon of destruction over there.
Yeah,
So
obviously they don't
we
like the straw maker, to go after the straw and not the cup. Obviously, whoever owns
right,
straws has made somebody mad.
yep, it's amazing. But we are at our hour and 1 minute. So we have other people, I'm sure, that want to come up online, and I think we've covered this subject fairly well. We probably could do another whole hour on terminals themselves, but I hope that we've gotten some decent information out to you folks, and we'll do this again next week. And next week, we gonna be talking about oil. So
Earl.
the
Earl.
Earl, we're gonna talk about Earl, and yeah, it's gonna be interesting. But is there anything you want to say on our way out, Miss
No, I
Belinda?
just wish all my tabs had no, with all the traveling, I lost a lot of my notes and stuff, but
Well,
I just
you
wish
have
I
a
had
week
that.
to catch up now.
Yes, I do.
But
I'll be
yeah,
ready.
Sunday we'll be back on our regular routine with our disabled, with our Inside Veterans Affairs, and then we'll be back here next Tuesday. So
Okay.
until then, y'all, if you don't have anything else you want to say, I'm going to go ahead and
I'm good.
thank my mods. I appreciate the hell out of every single one of you. I appreciate my visitors. WTF got in here. Good to see you. You'll have to catch us on the rerun because I don't think I can repeat everything I said. But anyway, so again, thank you all very much. And until next time, you know what I always say, stay in the fight.